usually get a countdown. I blame Gary.
I blame myself.
Welcome to Rock, Paper, and Grenades. This is the Honorable Gary S. Hopper. Wearing a turtleneck.
Yes.
You look like a Democrat with a turtleneck.
Oh, creep.
Doesn't he?
That's hurtful.
He does.
Yeah.
That's wicked hurtful.
There you go.
Well, JP's with us.
Yes.
Marzullo, and he's got
a bow tie.
I don't know what that is.
It's
Well,
like
it's,
1990s Tucker Carlson.
Well, it's actually, I couldn't bring my bulldog. I didn't know whether I could bring my bulldog, so I wore my bulldog bow tie, and it's kind of my brand, so that's why I did it.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think I'd want to be branded, though.
Well, it hurts
like
sometimes.
hurtful, yeah.
Well, it only
Oh,
hurts.
did you see what I put on? I saw this on Facebook this morning, so I reposted it.
What was that?
Is when somebody asks you, why don't you have a tattoo?
I did see that.
And,
Oh, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah. Why don't you have a tattoo? It's because, why would you put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari?
Exactly.
Right? Is that right or what?
That's okay. I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's not even close to the truth. I've never let that stop me.
I don't think anyone's switching cameras. We got
Yeah, JP's
Just
going to do the whole show, apparently.
It's like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like we got the JP ventriloquist act going because we're talking, but JP's on the monitor.
Exactly. Hi,
Yes.
everybody. There you go.
Oh, that fixes that. What else did we do? Oh, legislative stuff today. A note from somebody. As my first viewers of this program who watch this regularly know, what's that? 3 of them?
Yeah, the Malaysians.
The Malaysians.
Yes.
Yeah, the Malaysians know
watch us.
that watch this show. That I've been out for. I was out for quite a while.
Yeah, about six to
6
7
weeks anyway.
Yeah.
And then last week I did a show. Did I do the week before?
I think last week was your week back.
Was it? Or the week before? I get brain damage, so don't pay attention to me. But this is the first week that I've actually worn clothes so that I could go up to the legislature. And one of the reasons my wife patched me up so I could put the turtleneck on and stuff.
That was awkward last week when you came to the show nude.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything,
whatever,
but since you brought it up, yeah.
It's I'm kind of a free-spirited kind of guy.
Yeah, well, we are behind a big desk, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's a really large desk. So,
his wife doesn't watch us, okay?
no,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
we're cool then. All right.
She's never seen the program.
Probably not a bad idea.
No. It's a lot safer that way. It's just funny that I was just thinking that lady out front, she's Norm's guest from the show before.
Yeah. Oh, Wendy?
Yeah, Norm says she's from where? And I says, are you my friend on Facebook? She goes, I used to be.
Yep, not anymore. I don't think you can count on her vote.
I think that's probably a safe assumption. Oh, but it's actually kind of funny. If you're in politics, if you're thin-skinned, you really don't belong in politics because you offend somebody every time you vote on anything.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't. It's like today, I was really cool that I showed up today because one reason I forced myself to get out there and go in the legislature is I'm feeling well enough to do it without falling asleep all day, and 2, we had the casino bill.
Yep.
And apparently, me showing up was a bad move for the Steve Valancourts and those guys because the casino bill was tied for and against 172 to 172, and the woman, I forgot her name, who was acting as speaker because Speaker Norelli wasn't there, voted in favor of ITL, so the casino bill is dead till next week when somebody can pull it back off and debate it, but we'll see. But anyway, we're safe for at least another week. Because that's what really the truth of the matter is. The less you're there, the less the legislature is in session, the safer the people are.
Right.
In my judiciary committee, that was the other reason I had a couple of reasons I really wanted to show up today, and the other one was the bill that would direct the 25-foot or yard or whatever buffer zone around abortion clinics, which I said in the committee is in direct violation of Article 10 of the New Hampshire Constitution. And seeing that Matt actually has decent eyes, if you could just read the first couple of lines of Article 10. That's
Article
wicked
10.
tiny.
That's all right. I have 20/20 vision.
Hey, did you see that Did they have artificial eyes now?
No.
Yeah, they just implant. Some guy had macular degeneration. They've done a few of them,
Yeah.
and they can actually replace the eye.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
It's not wicked good yet. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't like get 3D. And,
Can you pick your color or anything?
I don't know.
like
Pretty soon you'll be able to play video games. I would think.
that? Sort of like the Google eye thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Modern technology is
Like
amazing.
that.
It's a good time to be alive.
But the cool thing is, our favorite ophthalmologist was telling me that the way they do it, it goes back.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
Gary and I have the
I'm
same
going to
eye
be here
doctor.
to enjoy it anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the same eye doctor, Dr. Fogel in Concord. And she was telling me that they tap into the nerve endings for the nose, not the eyes, to get the signal to the brain.
No kidding.
Wow.
Which is weird,
It is weird.
but it's cool. It's cool. Okay.
Does that mean you can smell with your eyes?
I guess
That's pretty cool, too.
you can smell what I'm saying.
Like,
Or no. Seeing.
all right, so this is Article 10,
It's called smell-o-vision.
right of revolution. Government being instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the whole community, and not for the private interest or
Emolument.
I always have trouble with that word, emolument, of any one man, family, or class of men.
Okay, stop there. So what's the purpose of government? Is it to help any one group?
No.
Okay, so it's absolutely not to help any one group. So if you create a law that creates a buffer zone around an abortion clinic, which is a private company, you are creating a law just to help that one group.
Right.
Yeah.
Or business, too. It
Or
says,
business.
Right.
And it's a business.
Exactly.
So therefore, that's what I said in the committee today, says that creating a buffer zone around there is a violation of Article 10 of the New Hampshire Constitution. Everybody else was arguing it on free speech, but the U.S. Supreme Court has already said buffer zones are constitutional. So I'm saying, well, no, they're not constitutional because you got to go by the New Hampshire Constitution too.
Right. How big is the buffer zone again? I forget.
I forget how many
40
feet.
feet or so.
So, I
Okay,
forget
so I
what it
remember
I'm
when
not
Kurt,
sure, but I think it's around 40
I think
feet.
it was up to 25 feet.
when Kurt was on the show, I remember being surprised at how large the buffer zone was.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the rest of this, or does it
that's
matter?
it.
That
was
gets
just
it out.
that
Okay.
was just the part that was pertinent.
Yeah.
And speaking of stuff like that, if people have watched the show for a while, you also know we've had guests from CareNet Pregnancy Center a few times.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 or 3 times.
I think 3 times.
Very
yeah.
wonderful people. They don't they're not pro-choice or anti-choice or anything. All they do is they're there to help women who've become pregnant and want help. They want an ultrasound. They want if they want to have the babies, they help them get in touch with people that can help them
Nice.
carry it to term and stuff like that. It's a non-profit, and they're having their 2 annual walkathons. I think they're just annual on May 3rd in Nashua and on May 10th in Manchester. So if you want to get involved, you can call CareNet, and Matt can read the website because you can do that. You also, if you can't make it the 3rd or the 10th, you can still do your paperwork and stuff online and just submit it ahead of time. Like you can do it on Friday if you can't really make the thing on Saturdays. Just do your walk and you submit your paperwork. But it'd be better if you were there because there's a lot more stuff to do if you go. It's kind of an event.
Yeah, the website is thefriendsoflife.org. Thefriendsoflife.org. You just go on there and click the online fundraising link and follow the prompts, and I'm sure it's very quick and easy. So.
What else do we? She highlighted something else for me.
Yeah, there
Did
was
she?
something on the back here. It's only a 2-mile walk, so it's not.
Yeah,
it's
so
not like a
even I
5.
could do that.
Me
Right.
too.
It's not like a. It's not like a 5K or something.
No.
And
More of a stroll.
yeah.
I think.
you can also write them a check and send them a check to CareNet Pregnancy Center of M&N, which I assume is Manchester and Nashua. But yeah, so thefriendsoflife.org, and like we said, it's only a 2-mile walk, so that's pretty
Did you
easy.
get a phone number too? Did they do that?
I didn't see. Oh, on the front. Yeah,
On the front?
there's the Manchester office there.
Yeah, so Manchester is 621-1122.
623.
That's 623 I meant. The other is 623-1122. And Nashua is 883-1122. You can have that.
Okay, great.
So anyway, that's enough for that. So the Judiciary Committee on the Buffer Zones is going to meet next Tuesday and decide it again. It's pretty much going down party lines.
Yeah.
except for one Republican who is pretty pro-choice Republican. But so that's the news from Lake Wobegon. Now JP is running. Which district are you running for?
District 8.
District 8.
And don't ask me to name all the towns because I
No.
don't know them all yet.
Yeah.
But it was Bob Odell's district.
Yeah, Bob Odell. I think last term I was thinking of running against him because he's a nice guy, but he's also socially pretty iffy.
Has he been on the show?
No.
Okay,
No.
the name's familiar. I've
yeah,
just
I
heard you
wouldn't-
talk about him probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So I decided to run against him for the same reasons probably that Gary is talking about. So
Yeah.
So anyway, JP, how'd you get involved in politics? What makes you wanna? How did
Yeah.
this all get started?
good question. I moved up here several years ago from the Annapolis area. I was non-political. I was an independent. I had no interest at all in politics. Being in that area, you can see why. I mean, you know, the big house was right down the street from us, the White House, and I just, you know, national politics was local news to us, and I just kind of got honestly bored with it and fed up with it, so I didn't even follow it. So when we moved up here in 2004, I think it was, somewhere thereabouts, I was hanging around the Deering Country Store, which is no longer there. And the first thing you do when you're from out of town is you go into the local country store and you go grab a cup of coffee and you have to sit at the counter. So they don't, you know, and the people that are really from the town sit at a little card table and they sit and talk about whatever's going on in town. And
Yeah.
so it took me about 3 months to move from the counter to the table, which was kind of fun. They were talking about politics in the town all the time.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of starting to complain about some of the things that were going on in the town that I lived in.
Yeah.
And they said,
They
well,
put you to work?
well, yeah, sort of. They said, stop exactly. So they said, stop complaining and run for selectman. And I said, I have no desire to do that. I'm not interested. And they said, well, then stop complaining. Well,
Right.
unfortunately, that's hard for me to do. So, you know, I come from a large Italian family, and in my family, confrontation's a sport.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And so they said, you can't win anyway, so why bother? And that's kind of the worst thing, or the best thing for them to say to me, because I never believed that.
It motivated you.
Yeah, and so I ran against a third-term woman who was related to everyone, or most everyone in the town. And it was fun. I mean, I had
Yeah.
a strategy to get my name out there, and I made it look like more people were with me than were against me. And
Yeah.
I started with like 5 signs, and no one had ever put up any political signs. And-
Really?
Yeah, because what happens in small towns, Ware isn't a small town, but in a town like Deering, what they do is, you're next, Gary. It's your turn. I'm tired of it. I'm going to go fishing next year, and it's your turn.
Right.
So that's kind of what they did. So I put up like 5 or 10 signs along 149 the first couple of weeks, and then I bought like 50, and then I put 50 more up in different parts of town, and then we went out and bought 100 signs, and so we ended up with almost 200 signs in every possible place in the town. So they kept seeing my name, and then we decided, we had seen in Maryland where people would be on the street corner early in the morning, you know, when you went
Waving
to work.
signs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
waving,
yeah.
and I thought, wow, that's really bizarre. Why would you want to do that?
Right.
And I thought, well, what the heck, we'll try it. So we started doing that, and lo and behold, I won by a landslide, which I found kind of funny because
Yeah.
it was 70 votes.
Hey, a win's a win.
But they said it was a landslide. So that's how I actually got involved with politics.
I'm curious. Did you get any pushback from? I mean, obviously it worked out well for you because it was a big win. But did you also have anyone who was kind of like, "Hey, what's this guy doing coming into our little town and actually putting up signs?"
Well, yeah, I mean, some of that, but not a lot of it, because I think people, you know, they were kind of tired of the same people
Sure.
running over.
Yeah.
And I got and I won't use the word, I got the ticked off vote because taxes were going up.
Yeah.
And the same people were in leadership in the town, and I made it very clear that, you know, that I wasn't happy with that. And I kept telling people, you know, because people would say, well, I've lived here all my life and you're new. And I said, yeah, but I chose to live here.
Right.
I chose to live in this town where you were born here. You know, that's a little different than choosing the town you want to live in.
Right.
So that's essentially what I did. So I did
Yeah.
get some pushback, but quite frankly, not a lot.
Yeah.
And then
That's
I ran.
usually because a lot of times that's the hard thing is if you're if you haven't been lived in town long, it's like they look at you like a carpetbagger. And
Yeah, but since I hadn't been involved in politics at all, I had none of that baggage that comes with having been somewhere else.
You want to tell you one of the worst things I ever told somebody in the legislature, because I often think after I've said stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's more entertaining that way.
Right,
really.
right.
It's like ready, shoot, aim.
Yeah, right. Ready, shoot, aim. That is good. There was this woman, when I got back in 2007 in the special election, and I was on science and technology. They said, well, that's the only seat we got open in science and technology. I said, well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It was not.
Really?
It was all about regulating the energy efficiency of this and that, and it was just
Really dry.
My
Yeah.
gosh, it was like watching paint dry, but painful paint. But anyway, so this woman is on my committee, and she says, "Well, I almost moved to where?" And I says, "Well, it's a good thing you didn't, because you never would have gotten elected." And the reason I said it is because she's a Democrat,
Right.
and she would have been new in town.
Right.
Last term was the first time any Democrats even come close.
Yeah.
And that was Evelyn Connor, who had been
Right.
the town clerk for 20 years.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was the only time I've seen a Democrat come, and she did win.
Yep.
But that's really, really unusual.
Right.
Okay? And so that's what I meant. But then I realized about a half an hour later, she's black. She might have thought I was...
Oh my God.
Oops.
Yikes.
Because she was offended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way. I
Right.
meant, well, you're a Democrat. You're be new in town. There's no way.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it. Oh, maybe she thought.
Yeah.
Well,
Ruh-roh.
Gary, you're really not the only Republican in this era who says things and then it, kind of gets them in trouble. So
No. Not me. But anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But just the...
So speaking of paint,
that is
Speaking
funny.
of pain, yeah.
paint. Yeah, you
paint.
said it was like watching paint dry.
Oh, it was wicked bad.
So we have this paint tax now coming up, right?
We do?
It just went to the Senate. Yeah.
Huh.
And
That
so
must have been last week they voted
it's going to
on.
go into the Senate tomorrow.
So it went from the House.
To the Senate. Yeah.
A paint tax.
A paint tax. Anyway, I
Seems-
got sidetracked, so you got me doing this too now. But,
Seems random. We'll just tax paint.
Well,
What
yeah.
about paintballs? So they get extra tax?
You know what? I never thought of that. That's a really good question, though. We should bring that up.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So back to politics, I guess, right?
Yeah, so-
if you want me to do that.
whatever.
So that was it. That was the only thing. And then so I ran a second term unopposed, and we had the largest turnout ever in the town, 450
Wow.
voters out of 1,200.
Yeah,
And
wow.
one of the kids that I sponsored at the Naval Academy actually flew in from Chicago to stand by me at the polls all day,
Oh, wow.
and I had no opponent. So I was blessed that I had somebody like him to
Yeah.
kind of speak for my integrity and my honesty. So that was great.
Yeah.
And then I had a self-imposed term limit. I decided to only run 2 terms in town, and somebody said to me, "We'll tell you when you're done." And I said, "No, that's not the way it's going to work."
Well, it's nice to be wanted.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Except depends on where you want it from, right? So I then decided to do some things for the Republican Party. So I helped start a committee with some of the people you know as well.
Yeah.
I kind of kick-started it. I really didn't start it myself, but so we had 4 people sitting on a porch, the late Dan Morehouse, Honorable Dan Donovan, and Joe
Right.
DuPont and myself. And we were complaining again. We're right back to that,
Yeah.
right? So we decided to start this. So we went over to talk to a gentleman in the other town who had this breakfast going on for, well, not the same breakfast, but he would have a breakfast every couple of weeks. He Walt Morris, who was a sheriff, and
He owns Morris's Sporting Goods over
right in Hillsborough. So we went and talked with him and said, "Look, here's what we want to do." It was in 2009. I was totally fed up with. I could see what was going to happen with healthcare, and seeing I had spent almost 40 years in the healthcare business, it really it set me off.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and so in 2009 we kick-started this committee, and we went from 11 basically to 135 in 1 year. So by the time the 2010 elections roll around, we helped different campaigns in different towns, and we won all but one of 45 seats. So that's sort of how I really got engaged with a grassroots kind of thing. And from there, I was elected area vice chair for, it was Hillsborough County, which is the largest county, voting county.
Yeah.
Other than Rockingham, I think is the other one. And so that covers Hillsborough and that whole area, and the two, Manchester and Nashua. And I left that after about a year, a little over a year, because I went to work for Ovid LaMontagne on his campaign for governor.
Yeah.
And the role I played there was, strangely enough, grassroots. I was director of grassroots and coalition. So.
Yeah.
And after that, to bring it right up to date, after that I ran for the vice chair of the Republican State Committee. And no one ran, well, somebody ran against me, and then about right after I was on a different radio show, and they endorsed, I wasn't on the show actually, they endorsed me, and I had already bought the stickers that said vote JP, so I wasn't really happy, because once they endorsed me, he decided to drop out.
Oh, wow.
So it's been, and they'll never hear the end of this, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I've reminded of them several times. So and that's where I've been until, that's what I've been doing. I worked at, I've been doing some work. I worked at a brain and spinal cord injury facility in New Boston as a director of marketing for Dan Donovan's group.
Okay.
And I was doing that until April 1st when I decided that I wanted to run. I had thought about it, that I wanted to run for the Senate seat, so I quit.
Yeah.
Because you really can't do both if you're serious about it.
Right, right.
as Gary will tell you, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's very hard to do it, and so that's sort of my political career. I was an independent for when I first came up here. I actually took a ballot from the dark side a couple of times because. Yeah, I mean, it was just something that you vote independent, and you don't know that you have to undeclare, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So
I think it's, I've never.
And I never knew that, so.
I'm an independent, and I hate that whole.
Yeah.
It's a hassle.
It is a hassle.
Yeah, it seems like a scam.
And so anyway, so here I am, and I'm giving it a shot. I'm going to try to win this seat, and I've been out there talking to a lot of people. And someone asked me the other day, and they said, well, it looks like they're going to have to raise $100,000 for this seat. And I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a grassroots campaign.
Right.
And if somebody wants to spend $100,000 for a $100 seat, I'm not sure I'd vote for him.
Well, you know what you're doing, because unless I missed something, I don't think you've ever lost, have you? Running for
No, I really haven't. No, I haven't. So
you got a good streak going. So
well, I hope so.
You know what you're doing. I mean, so far so good. It sounds like. So.
And it's it's really about getting out there talking to people.
Sure.
I've lost before. It's not that bad.
So that kind of brings you up to date with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. That is good. That is much good. Okay, now, because I'm going to have your another guy in town who actually I'm friends with, but I'm not so sure about his some of the stuff. I should shut up. But anyway, he's a really nice guy. So is JP. But we'll find out how you do on the issues.
Yep.
So, pro-life stuff. Are you pro-life, or would you consider yourself pro-choice?
No, I'm pro-life.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
So why?
Why? Well, a lot of reasons why. I mean, first of all, I'm a Catholic. And although many Catholics don't follow that, even though they're Catholic, I don't think there's anything more important than life itself. When people talk about this to me, it's like I'm fortunate that I'm alive, and I've had this opportunity to enjoy this great life, and I believe in God.
So was your mom pro-choice after you were born, though?
Probably not. I don't know.
Okay.
I think I am an only child, so maybe that was the reason. Yikes! I never thought of that. I never thought of that. Oh my God!
Sorry, I'm just kidding. I was just being a jerk.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yep.
So one of the reason I ask this is on the federal campaigns I don't really care that much because most of this stuff, the federal Congress doesn't really deal with that much. It really doesn't deal with pro-life issues and things like that really often. Yeah. But on the local issue, it does because my second term we tried to get like parental notification through.
Right.
and my first term it failed.
Yep.
Second term it squeaked by because Benson was governor.
Oh.
Okay.
Yep.
The only time it ever came close was when we had the supermajority last term with O'Brien in.
Right.
And then it passed.
Right. I remember
and
that.
it's just been unreal to me that it's okay. It's not okay for a 13-year-old kid to bring Tylenol or something like that with him in case he's got a headache to school.
Right.
He's got to get written permission and all
Right.
this other stuff. But a 13-year-old girl can go get an abortion. I just think that's insane.
That is.
And I agree with that, and I'm pro-choice.
Okay.
But I agree with that. Like, to me, that it's just common sense that
Right.
you know your kid has an abortion. I think you should know. You know.
One would hope that your parents would be involved and the doctor would be involved.
Exactly.
And, I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. That's very important.
To me, it's just common sense.
Yeah,
And,
so
it amazes me that some people oppose that.
Yeah, it blows me away.
I mean, I think I know why. I think it's the whole slippery slope thing.
Yeah,
but still.
it's more of an ideology
Right.
vote than it is any kind of common sense, because it doesn't make any sense at
No.
all.
Yeah, and that's something that on Ovid's campaign he was asked constantly. So
Yeah.
I heard a lot of that as I traveled around.
Really. Yeah.
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 He's a nice guy.
He's a great.
Yeah, we had him on the show.
He's a real
Yeah.
statesman. You know, I learned a lot from him.
Yeah, well, I don't
I
know.
really
I
did.
used to have a lot of respect for him. Then he did show up for the show, and I was saying, well, maybe.
Yeah, his standards.
Oh, so
just,
is that the end of this then? Good night, folks.
Well, actually, if you ask Ross Terrio, he'll tell you.
Yeah, Ross Terrio,
Where the
yeah.
kiss of death.
Yes.
Yikes.
He comes on and picks on me. It hurts my feelings and everything. It's really,
Really?
bad. Yeah.
Gary's very sensitive.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Second Amendment.
I'm pro gun. In fact, I'm not packing tonight, but
You wanna borrow one?
oh no, there's no question in my mind that, and it frustrates me that there's so many people. This bill's going to continue to keep coming up. They're going to continue to push this. You take any of the situations that have happened recently. It's a shame that all these, like Connecticut. It's really sad that happened, but it's just the wrong thing to be doing, is to taking our guns away from us. And I think it goes down a long way. I mean, there's several people who've moved here from Connecticut for that simple reason, that we're not going to back off on that. And I think it's all how we deliver the message, Gary, and what we say. I think that's important.
What do you, in your mind, what is the Second Amendment for? What was its intent?
What was its intent?
Yes.
Well, part of it was the militia, that you could protect yourself, that we have the right as citizens to protect ourselves against a government that may turn on us, become tyrannical or whatever. So that's how I look at it. That's how I interpret it. And I also think it protects the other amendments, actually.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. I always say, too, here in New Hampshire, we're one of the most heavily armed states in the country and one of the safest.
Yeah.
Statistically. So I think that adage that an armed society is a polite society is, I think New Hampshire is emblematic of that.
And I can make an analogy, too. We lived in the Baltimore area, obviously.
Yeah.
And one year they had almost 500 homicides. And they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and that just shows you that. And when we moved here, I can remember this. It really wasn't funny, but it kind of was. They were complaining about they had 11 or 10 homicides that year, and everybody was really worried. And I'm thinking, I have to be
that's
careful how I
an
say this. It's like a Friday night in Baltimore,
Right.
or in D.C. or Chicago, or an afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I don't mean that. I just think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you really look at the statistics, it really has nothing to do with guns. It has everything to do with fatherlessness.
It has a lot to do with it.
You have in D.C., you have only 25% of those kids are brought up in intact homes. 75% of those children are brought up in broken or single-parent homes.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in Chicago.
Yep.
It has everything to do with, when we were growing up, we had a dad around, and if we started getting out of hand, it didn't go very far.
No, it didn't.
Right.
My mom broke more wooden spoons on me, chasing me around the house. But, so I understand that
And
completely.
the problem is, it's not only that, it's accumulative.
Yep.
Because if you have, let's take a classroom of 30 kids. If you've got one or two kids that are acting out, the teacher can typically handle that.
Right.
But if you have 50% of those kids acting out, they're not learning anything.
Right.
That's why when I'm on my show, I don't. A lot of Republicans complain, say that a lot of the problem is the teachers and all this. I don't think so. It's the parents.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree with that.
And that's why you see the high I mean, a lot of it is the gun control also.
Yep.
I mean, the higher, if you've got all these out of control children, and then you tell everybody in that area, oh, you can't have any firearms. Well, a kid knows if he breaks into your house, the worst that's going to happen is he might get 6 months probation.
Right.
Very good point.
But if they think there's a very good chance I'm going to get shot, the
Well,
probability
that's
of
a
him
little
breaking into your house is a little bit different.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a very good point.
Yep.
But anyway, so Second Amendment, we stand your ground. How would you have voted had you had the opportunity on that?
Well, I think that I would have voted to allow you to stand your ground. I mean, that ties right in with the Second Amendment to me.
Right.
And I would have voted that way.
Is it because we're getting older and we can't really run our
I don't
ground?
run as well. That's part of it. I think. I think there has a lot to do with that. No, I really think you're right. Probably.
Paul Mirsky.
I know who he is. Sure.
Yeah, State
I know
Rep Paul Mirsky. He's wicked funny. He's saying he was in a bar one time and this kid was just jabbing him at him, like constantly tooling on him, and he just turns to this young guy and he goes, "Look, okay, I'm too old to fight you. I'm too old to run from you. That means I have to shoot you." Okay, those are my options.
Yeah.
The kid just left him alone after that.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
He's an awesome guy. Okay, this is it. We'll have fun with this. Right to work.
Right to work.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I think that I don't know how many unions we really have. I don't know how many people are actually in unions in the state.
Yeah.
So certainly right to work. I think everyone should have the opportunity to be able to go to work for any company under any circumstances.
Right.
And I know the argument sometimes is, well, the unions have negotiated the wages and the other things that come along with it. So yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because I think right to work is important for our state. But again, I don't know. I really don't have the information on how many unions we really. I know we have a teachers union, obviously.
Right, but okay.
So that's a tough one. Other than that, I don't think. I think everyone should have the right to work, and it should be. You shouldn't have to join a union as the way it is. I think.
Okay. Right to work. So this is if you peel back the onions on
Yep.
right to work. Right to work is proposed as your. I'm gonna start drawing a blank on this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's wicked bad. When you're sick all the time for months on end, your freaking brain is not clicking. Which makes it much more interesting.
That's true.
Well,
really
are you going to
could-
peel back the onion so I can get some more input into
well,
it?
they claim that right to work is about people not being forced to join the union.
Right.
You can't be forced to join the union. In New Hampshire, you can't be forced to join the union.
Right.
Okay? You already can't be forced to join the union.
Right.
So then the question is, well, if it's not about that, what's it about? What it's really about is that people who don't join the union under current law, if you're you work in a factory and you're working next to this guy and you decide you don't want to join the union, he's in the union.
Right.
Okay? If the negotiators agree on a contract for, say, a 5% raise, that contracting fee, like in other words, the lawyers and all that stuff that negotiated the contract, that cost X number of dollars.
Right, of course.
And even though you're not in the union, you don't have to pay dues, but you do have to pay for your
For
percentage.
that negotiated.
For the negotiation fee.
Right.
And that's what right to work is. And I've always thought the way it is fair. And the fact of the matter is, as far as private unions, there's only 1%, I think, of the workforce in New Hampshire is actually union.
And all the rest is public.
And all the rest are public, and everybody
Yeah.
votes on those contracts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah. So I've never bought into right to work, but that's whatever. What else did I get? Because I got to make sure I ask you and Jerry
And
the
Jerry,
same
the same
questions.
question. Sure. Fair enough.
I'll just slant them your way.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. If you buy me dinner.
Oh,
So
Could do that.
you've
You've been sick, so you can't eat much right now anyway, right? Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, he's good.
He is. He is. That's why he never loses.
Same-sex marriage.
Okay, that's going to be a little tougher for me, but I'll give you the straight answer.
Okay.
I believe in traditional marriage. I married a woman.
That would be your wife.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's my wife.
Hey, you did that too. You guys have something in common.
I do.
There
It's
you
not
go.
the same wife, though.
No,
No,
right,
God,
right.
no,
But you
God,
both
no.
married females.
Yes.
But I have a gay son.
Okay.
And I spoke out about this several years ago. And I will defend my son's right to be a human, to be treated the right way, out of respect and dignity and honor. And so that's where I'm at with that. Do I believe that, if they called it something else like a civil union, it would be a lot easier for me and a lot of other people to do this. But, I'll stand firm on that. It's the law right now. It's the law. And so I don't really see it as a large issue. I think there are other things we need to be concentrating on, but that's where I stand on it, Gary.
Yeah. I actually I agree with the last part of your statement. One of the arguments for same-sex marriage was that that marriage is so diluted now. How can that have that great of an effect? And it was actually years ago. It was almost like a softball. I thought it was a friend to ask the question because I always vote against same-sex marriage.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And she said, well, I explained to you, like I explained earlier, that the problem with society is the breakdown of the family.
Yep.
You can see it, the increase in drugs and everything else is all relative to, in the 70s, they went through no-fault divorce. We went from most children, vast majority of children growing up in intact homes to half of marriages being broken up and compounded by the number of people who didn't get married at all anymore. And then that's when you saw the increase of the number of kids going into jail and everything else. It's
right.
It's so the breakdown of the family is the issue to me that is probably one of the most devastating things that's happened to our society in the last 50 years. But in the committee hearing, she says, well, so I said any further dilution of that, which would be same-sex marriage, is only going to make that situation worse.
I'd like to debate that.
Yeah. And she said, well, what have you done? What have you done to that end? I said, well, let's see. I introduced bills almost every 2 years to eliminate no-fault divorce for couples with minor children.
Yep.
I've introduced bill to require parental education prior to divorce. And I went through a list of bills that I've introduced to try to get something done to reduce the divorce rate.
Right.
And it was...
How did you do with that?
Huh?
How did you do with that? The bills?
No, it doesn't go anywhere. It's because it's
Yeah.
too conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty liberal
Yeah,
legislature.
I mean, I consider myself conservative.
Yeah.
I resent the fact that there were a couple of state reps who were talking about how bad families of gay children were. There were some direct comments made. This was a few years back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention a person thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
helpful, yeah.
No, it's not. And I really took offense to that because I have a very strong family.
Yeah.
And I.
You mean like
my
physically strong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
okay.
I'm Italian. I got a bunch of uncles named Nunzio. So just keep that in
Okay,
mind.
all
I'm
right.
sure they're very nice people.
Did I say anything bad?
No,
I don't think I said anything bad.
nothing at all. Nothing at all. We love Italians. They're great people, all of them, and yes.
We just hate the French.
So
Right,
you're in the
there you go.
wrong city.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Oh, crap! Oh!
No, you did it again.
I did it again.
So anyway, getting back to that. So I resented that, and I
Yeah.
took exception to that, and I spoke out about that. And I think that it really has a lot to do with the family unit itself and how you work with your family in general. So to your point, I think the families have deteriorated. The family concept of family. To give you an idea, I come from a very large family, and a little get together.
Again with the threats.
I know. It's okay. It's okay. I'm sure they're all very nice.
And a little get together on a Sunday might be 80 people,
Right,
cousins
right.
and uncles, and that's what I really miss about being away from
Yeah.
that type of. So I think that's the key to it, really. I just think that I'm a lot more tolerant than I was when we found out when my son was 15.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot more tolerant than I was because I was pretty nasty. And his comment to me was, this was when there was AIDS was just kind of starting out.
Oh yeah.
And his comment to me, and I can say this because I've talked to him about this, and I've commented about this at large meetings, and he asked me how I felt about that, and I said, remember, I'm very religious. I was a philosophy major in college, and I said to him, I think it's God's way of cleaning up the riffraff on this earth.
Wow.
I said that to a 15-year-old boy.
Before you knew?
He told me before I knew, because he was testing me. And then
Ouch.
And then about 2 weeks later, he went to a fame type school, and us older people know about that. He had his
Fame.
he had his he had his art thing. He was an actor, and plus his education.
So your son's a thespian?
He is.
Yeah.
On top of everything else. He's a yoga master. I mean, he does some really fun things. But anyway, so getting back to it. So he came home from school.
That's a good one.
That was a good one.
They did that. Some guy did that to his opponent in Florida. I think it was quite a few years ago. Just before the election, he did this mailing or something like that, and said, my opponent's child is a thespian in New York, and his parents are sexagenarians.
Wow.
Oh my God, that was an interesting race, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh my God.
Huh.
So anyway, he came back a couple of weeks later and told us, and in tears, kind of hugged us, and he was concerned that he was going to be left alone, that he was done as a child.
Wow.
And I said to him, "You're going to have to help me through this," and he knew that. And his comment was, I'm not going to be wearing a dress home tomorrow.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that one.
Right.
And then I came to grips with it, and over my son is 37, and so it was an interesting change in my whole life, really.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Can we talk about something a little bit more important?
Please.
Show them the cool glasses you got.
Oh yeah.
No, check this out.
I was wondering, actually.
Wait.
So these glasses are called Clickets.
Oh wow.
Is that cool?
That is cool.
That's wicked cool.
So the reason why I have a couple of reasons. I would stick my glasses in my pocket and sit on them and break them. But and so then Donna, my wife, saw on NCIS, I guess it is, the mortician who's cutting up bodies and stuff. Had a pair of these because it just made it easier.
Yeah.
So,
oh wow.
Yeah, they are cool.
They're wicked cool.
Clickit.com.
Oh wow.
I'll get you there.
Very cool. Huh.
Tell them what happens when you go too close to the refrigerator.
Oh yeah, you do one of these.
Oh really?
Like this, on that mic, takes your pen out of your pocket. So it does some fun things.
That's awesome. All right, let's see. We're gonna make sure we don't run out of time. Okay, so let's see. Casinos. We voted on casinos today.
So I don't have to worry about it now, right?
Yeah.
All right.
As long as Lou D'Alessandro takes in breath, you're gonna have to worry about it.
And Kai, what's the guy on the radio on? Let's see, what's his name? He does hockey too. He's a hockey announcer, and Ken Kale.
Oh okay.
He talks about it
It's
constantly. Yeah, thank you. Just like it's right out there. So, thank you. I have a couple of views about. First of all, I have friends who gamble, and when they're really down and out, they figure they're going to make up the money they are out by gambling, which makes no sense to me.
Right.
And I sort of look at the same kind of thing with the state. It's like
drugs. It's like a drug addict trying to do more heroin to feel better.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that drives me nuts is when I hear people say, and I've heard Senator D'Alessandro say this, that, well, we have to do it to compete against Massachusetts. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, let me understand this. So you're going to put a casino in Salem, and there's so much to do in Salem, right? So you're going to build this beautiful casino so everybody can come there. And right across the border, in Boston area, you're going to have a casino where you can go to the theater, a 5-star restaurant, a baseball game, a hockey game. So somebody's coming up here to gamble. Where are they going to go? I mean, they're going to go to Boston and not coming here. So, to me, it's just, and the real issue is for me is the first part of it, which is, when you don't have money, you shouldn't be going out gambling away. There's other things we should concentrate on, and I would, I haven't talked to people in District 8. That may not change my mind anyway. But I do, I would owe the people there at least to listen to what they have to say. But I would have voted like you did. We would have had 2 votes then.
2, yeah. Well, did you hear the? Now I'm going to forget what state it was. I think it's Delaware. Delaware? Do they have gambling?
Yeah, they have slots and
Oh, okay.
horse racing.
Their legislature is voting to subsidize their casinos because they're losing money.
Oh, great.
Well, this is the point. I'm from, I grew up in Connecticut. Unfortunately, but I grew up in Connecticut, and I can remember Lowell Weicker saying, "We're going to put an income tax in." And then they did it, and then they came out with the gambling stuff, and they said, "Well, that'll lower your property tax and everything
and
else."
your income tax.
And it kept going up.
Right.
And
Everything
they're
kept
still
going up.
Yeah. So, there are people smarter than I am, I guess, looking at this, but I just don't
Yeah,
get
but they
it. I
don't
don't
have
get
the
it.
80 people show up on their lawn with their Italian
With
every-
violin cases and
violin
stuff.
cases and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
I
it
think
doesn't
I'm right.
matter.
I might be right on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you are.
By one vote.
He's right. He's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you're right.
You're
Yes.
learning.
Totally agree with
That's
you.
why I
Yes,
never
yes.
lose, by the
Hey,
way.
yeah.
So we got that.
Well, you know what's actually cool? You talk about the violin cases. Thompson, Thompson. No, what is it? It's not.
Thompson rifles.
Yeah, but the Thompson. But I forget what the name of the company is. Anyway, the Tommy gun.
Yeah.
They still sell that. Of course, in today's age, it's semi-automatic.
Right.
Okay, but it's still the same, basically the same gun, but in semi-auto, it's a 45. Really cool looking gun. But the really cool part is, I don't know if it's. I haven't been on their website for a couple of years, but they actually sell it with a violin case to hold it.
Wow.
Is that awesome?
Really? That is cool.
I love it.
Oh, it's wicked cool.
I think my family makes those cases.
Oh
by the
yeah,
way.
I bet they probably do. You probably get a discount.
I get it. I get a kickback on
You get a
those.
kickback?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a recoil joke?
It is now.
It is now. Okay, so the other one was I wanted to ask you about was Obamacare.
Oh well, I'm very much against it. That's why I got into this racket. To be honest with you,
Because I think you're the guy that's in there now, Odell, voted for the expansion of
did.
Medicare,
Yes, he did.
which is another.
That and the gas tax got me crazy. So, and I started in 2009 actually because the Obamacare. We had the best healthcare system in the world.
Right.
No one was going to France to have major surgery done. They come to the United States. And I've seen socialized medicine work in some cases. In my 39 years of experience in the radiology part of the healthcare industry, I had an opportunity to work with physicians that were in socialized medicine in Canada, Sweden, and the good fact in Sweden is that socialized medicine did screening for breast cancer, which my mom died of, and that's sort of how I got. It's a long story. I got involved. You can see it on my website, but. So I'm very much against what they're doing, and I really think that there was a better way to do this. And I think, Odell's vote and another senator's vote kind of forced the Senate to make a quick decision to come up with something that was an alternative to what they were doing. I don't think they really thought it out, and I've had conversations with the president of the Senate. And I don't think they had an opportunity to really do what I feel they should have done. I would have loved to have been part of those conversations. I have some ideas that you'll see as things go on that I'd like to see. I don't, everybody says repeal it. I'm not certain we can at this point, but we can make
agree.
it a heck of a lot better than it is right now.
Focus
and there are
on
ways
reforms.
to do it.
Yep.
And there are ways to do it. And we haven't even started looking into those ways. So I'm definitely against that, big time.
Yeah. To me, it's a, and this is something you're going to be able to vote on as a senator, is a lot of it's a function of states' rights.
Yep.
And Obamacare superimposes the federal government on the states, which is not the way it was supposed to be. There's nothing in the Constitution that says it's okay for the federal government to dictate to New Hampshire.
mandate that you buy health care.
Right.
And then in our own state, where Senator Shaheen, when she was governor, and of course I wasn't here then, but we have 1 or 2 health insurance companies. Oh, by the way, they're going to bring another one in now. Big deal. That we should be working with. I mean, it should be a free market thing. I think that competition will drive prices down.
I agree.
And we're not concentrating on that. So.
Well, from what I understand, somebody told me, and I don't know, I don't have anything to validate it, but that the Obama administration is working with some other people to get another insurance company that doesn't really want to come in.
I heard, yes.
And they're paying a boatload of money, and it's strictly to help Gene Shaheen get reelected.
I wouldn't doubt that. It's like another bailout. Instead of bailing out banks, now we're going to bail out insurance companies?
Yes.
I mean, that makes no sense to me at all. And I really, honestly, that's what I'm driven with, to be honest with you. That's how I'm driven to win this race, because I will be able to have an effect on that, and I will work hard for the citizens of the state to help them understand what we've just gotten ourselves into. It's not political for me, because you know what? Everyone is suffering, whether you're Democrat or Republican. We want to take care of our most needy people. I don't think anybody questions that. We're doing it the wrong way. Federal money isn't the way to do it.
What else? What other questions did I have?
Did you hit everything on your list?
I had everything on my list. What about medical marijuana?
Marijuana?
Yeah.
Medical marijuana, I would vote for.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Would you have connections to, with all your
No, we weren't in that kind of business. It's more
Okay.
protection kind of stuff.
protection racket?
Yeah, exactly. It makes
Okay.
more sense to me.
Don't say racket.
Don't say
Yeah, don't
racket.
say
I
that
can't
word.
say
No,
racket.
No, that's
No.
a bad word.
Is
Yeah.
that what the French do?
Yeah. No, that's racket.
Racket.
I don't know.
So, no, medical marijuana I would definitely vote for.
Yeah.
But it has to be, obviously we have to find out how it's being controlled. I don't like to give the state any more money than they should have, but
Yeah.
so I don't know. But that I would vote for.
What is it? I forget how many. I'm losing track of the terms, but there's a couple of terms ago we had medical marijuana, which I vote in principle for, because that's the problem. Is there's the in principle I'm for this, but then you look at the bill and you go, no way. Okay, and we had a bill that went from the House, and all it did was say that if somebody has a note from a doctor, like Matt and I get one from our ophthalmologist because I got glaucoma and I have to smoke like 40 joints a day.
Yeah.
You're up to that many. Huh?
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know. I forget after about 20.
Yeah.
No, but anyway.
God, you must be hungry.
I
Twinkies.
want the Munchies franchise for the state.
Exactly.
Like Oreos.
Yeah.
And
Right.
That's what I want.
Right. So anyway, you had to have an established relationship with a doctor.
Right.
And typically the reasons for it that I've heard that are actually really legitimate are for appetite with cancer and some of the pain issues,
Yep.
or people with MS. And so there are some actually really good legitimate reasons to have
And-
medical marijuana.
Yep.
And so we had a bill that came into the House, and what it said was that if somebody had that established relationship X number of years,
Right.
and the doctor says, well, yeah,
This could help.
This would help. This would help alleviate these symptoms. They could get like a ticket, whatever you want to call it,
A voucher or
a voucher,
something, right?
so
Yeah.
that they could legally grow about 3 plants in their own house. They would
Yep.
have to tell the local police,
Right.
so that the police would understand,
Right.
that what's going on.
So when
And
they flew over in their helicopters to
Right.
look at the heat
Yeah.
sensitive things, they wouldn't.
you don't
say
even
anything.
need the NSA would be taking pictures inside your house anyway. They use your baby monitor now to do that.
I saw that.
Yeah. So
See, I threw
and
them
that
off.
and that made sense.
Yep.
But then it went to the Senate, and the Senate said, well, and this is when Maggie Hassan was in there. It went to the Senate, and it came back costing $250,000 so that UNH could set up a marijuana growing plant. I'm thinking,
Really?
okay, first of all, only a government could figure out a way to lose money selling pot. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you're going to let a
Right.
bunch of college kids grow marijuana.
Oh, good for that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So,
But they get
So
a surge in enrollment at UNH.
So-
right.
So who brought that forward?
I don't remember.
Do you remember?
I don't
That's
remember. But
that's
it was,
funny.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was pretty ridiculous. There's some pretty ridiculous things that happen up in the. You're going to have fun.
I'm looking forward to
You
it.
know?
Yeah, I'm going to work hard to win people's confidence in the district and.
Well, okay, JP, you're running for $100 a year job. There's not going to be all that much confidence.
If I spent $100,000, it'd be
Yeah,
none.
absolutely.
There'd be no
Yeah,
confidence
yeah.
in it.
Hey, JP, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck, young
Thank
man.
You very
Yeah,
much.
thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on. It was
Absolutely,
fun. Had a
absolutely.
good time.
All right, we'll see you next. Oh, what do I get next week? Who's that guy? Like the guy that's running for executive council of Manchester area. I forgot his
Jim
name.
Adams.
Jim Adams is on
Taxpayer
next week.
Coalition
Okay.
person.
All right. Very cool.
Jim Adams is on next week. He's running for Pappas' seat.
Okay.
Okay?
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
We good, Matt?
We're good.
Thank
We're always
you.
good. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.